Three, two, one. Boop. All right. So this is I'm Damon Bell. This is interview part 5, I think. And this interview, I'd like to talk about some of my favorite teachers from Lakeview. If you want to stay at the beginning, or this is in no particular order, just as the order that my weed-addled brain remembers this stuff. So let's start off with Mrs. Phillips. She was the keyboarding teacher. That's what I had her for. I think she also did like webmastering or something. I never took that, but my freshman year I took her keyboarding class, and it was helpful as hell. I still remember her lessons to this day. Um, I'd known her for years, actually. Her daughter and my younger sister were best friends. Plus, they lived like a block and a half away. So I said I'd known her for years at this point, and I may have been a little, you know, too familiar with her. God, that sounds creepy. I I knew her, and I took advantage of that. That sounds almost as bad. Holy crap. Sorry, Mrs. Phillips. um, but yeah, I remember she would after the first semester, she blacked out all the keyboards with that's like a magic marker, and so we had to either you sank or you swam in that class. As she did have a one ergonomic keyboard, one of the ones that's kind of broken into 2 or 3 segments to make it easier for typing. And I think I got carpal tunnel in that class. I typed and typed for our Thanksgiving project. We had to type up a list of everything we were thankful for, and I think mine was 22 pages long. And she made me take out all the references to sex because, as she put it, it's not like you've ever had it, and she was right. And I had a lot of words that had been, I'd entered multiple times, and it was just the stupidest thing. I put all this crap in there that I was thankful for, and it, it was a good memory. Anyway, I was really bad about talking to whoever I was sat by. There was 2 girls in particular. One was, I think, the older sister of somebody I was in band with, and one was another girl who we ended up getting a St. Bernard off of years later. And they were seniors when I was a freshman, so I thought I was really cool talking to these 2 chicks. And they were great. They were funny. They treated me like a little brother, I think. And it was awesome. Well, like I said, I talked a whole lot during this class, and that would drive Miss Phillips crazy, so she kept moving me around. But at one point, I got a virus on my work disk that we saved all our stuff to, and since I blame this on her, since she moved me around constantly, nearly every day she'd move me to different desks so I wouldn't go talk. I just talked to whoever I was sat next to. I didn't care. I mean, whatever. And so I ended up spreading a virus to pretty much the whole computer lab. Like I said, I will take responsibility. I was talking, but she could just let me where I was, and I would have only infected the one computer. Anyway, we also let loose a fake virus. There was a guy in there who was a senior who worked at a local computer store, and he actually, was like a probably an actual hacker. He knew what he was doing, and he made this program or found it, and you plug it into disk, and when you ran it, it would bring up, like the usual DOS screen. If any of y'all remember that, just a black screen with a little bit of text on it and a blinking cursor. It said, "Do you wish to format, hard drive or C colon drive, whatever it was back then, and Y or N." And whether you hit Y or N didn't matter. It would still said it would act like you hit the Y for yes, and it would make it would make the disk drive spin like crazy, make all this noise, and it would drive the computer crazy. And at the end of it, it would say, "Thank you, your disk had been formatted," or whatever. And oh my God, Mrs. Phillips nearly killed him. I think she got him kicked out of that class for that. I'm glad she didn't know I had a part of that. Sorry, Miss Phillips. Hopefully Mom won't show you this video. But I remember that. It was, God damn, I thought it was just the funniest thing ever. Um, oh, Ma Deb. Ma Deb. She wasn't so much a teacher as I think she worked in the cafeteria. And she was also a sponsor on pretty much every band thing we ever did. And we're still friends to this day. We're actually friends on Facebook. It's great. I would go to games for years, usually as a school bus driver. I drove a school bus for 4 years immediately after high school, and so I would see a lot of people I knew at the games, and she would always be there at the fence cheering on the band when they were getting ready to go march onto the field during halftime, and I'd sneak up to her and goose her. And Love you, Ma Deb. You were the best. You are the best. You're great. Um, there was a coach. I do not remember his name. I'm sorry, Coach Squiggles. That's what I always called him. He could not draw a circle or a line to save his life, and he taught geometry. This was my junior year, and he was horrible at drawing. Even with the with a stick with a string and a piece of chalk on the end, he couldn't draw. That's where I ended up getting the idea to start my Damonary. It's like a dictionary, but for words that I made up. And he had told us, a plane is an infinite flat segment. Just an infinite flat thing. And he used the chalkboard in the room to describe it. And I'm like, well, I can see the edges, so wouldn't that make it a plane segment? No, that's not how this works. You have to imagine it's, well, I can see the lines. It's hard to imagine it when I can see the edges. And so I created a wavy plane, or a plane segment. And a few days later, we started talking about waves and other stuff. I said, well, so let's just assume that this is a plane segment. Yeah? Fine, whatever. Okay, so that's a plane segment. Now it's a wavy plane segment. And he just, I don't think he thought I was nearly as funny as I thought I was. But to be honest, that was the only math class I was ever decent at after third grade. After third grade, math got hard for me. And I was generally a straight A-B student, but the few C's I ever got were pretty much only in math. Algebra just killed me. If you don't know what X and Y and Z are, then kiss my butt. But thanks to Matt and Mariah, I think, and also Gary, we would usually work, put our desks together and work as a group, and we had pretty much hundreds in that class. Probably mostly due to Mariah. She was, I think, a lot smarter than I am. Definitely, definitely. Coach Lawrence, he taught, I think, government or history. He was a great teacher, and I don't remember anything specifically funny about him, but I really enjoyed his class. He made you think a lot, and that was always a plus in school for me anyway, having to think. It wasn't just so much just here's a date, memorize it, whatever. But yeah, it was great. He was a really good teacher. Probably my favorite history teacher of maybe all time, probably tied with Mr. Costello from Lincoln, was Mrs. Shelton. She was fantastic. I mean, I think it was honors history, and a lot of smart, nerdy kids in there with me. Great people, all great people. And again, she was more about the idea of why things happen in history and government, as opposed to stupid just strict dates. That was one of the better things about college. It wasn't so much about memorize this, memorize that, but why did this happen? Why did this event take place? Why did this person do this? And she was great. She had a saying she used to say, "Life's a beach. Bring your towel." I'm still not 100% sure what that means, but thanks. At one point, I guess she had asked us if we had any questions, and so of course we would always, being dorky, weird honors kids, we would ask questions that had nothing to do with anything. Like in one series of the Smurfs, there's little baby Smurfs running around, but there's only the one female Smurf. Where do they come from? And we discussed that for a while during class, and I said, hey, I might have the answer. I have a book called What Do Smurfs Do All Day? And so I actually brought that book to class, and she read us this 3-year-old's book for an honors history class. And it cracked us up. It totally didn't answer the question of who was sleeping with Smurfette. If those were her kids, I'm not trying to, shame Smurfette or anything. Who knows? Maybe they just popped up out of the ground like toadstools. I have no idea. Not so much a teacher, actually, but Mrs. Gesh was a counselor at Lakeview and when I went to Goliad Elementary. And her dad was a counselor at Lakeview also. I can't remember his name. Some of y'all might. I hope somebody remembers it. Maybe comments on this about it. But they were great. They saved my life at Lakeview at Goliad. When I was a kid at Goliad, thanks to friggin' Max Headroom, maybe blast from the past there. he had this stuttering thing he did in the TV show. It was like an AI or whatever, and I would imitate that, and it got stuck. I could not stop stuttering after that, and I still occasionally have problems with it now, but only saying words like ketchup. I have a hard time ordering ketchup. It's so stupid and annoying when you're in a restaurant and can't get ketchup, and but she helped me a lot with speech therapy and stuff, and then helped me with my career choices, which I guess weren't that much help because I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Moving on. Mrs. Kelly, she taught physical science my freshman year. I was friends with her son, who was also happened to be in the class with us, and she was great. She was a fun teacher. She was funny, and she was kind of crazy, I think, a little, and that made it entertaining as hell. I learned a lot about science from her, but I also figured out her passions, and I knew that she loved flying and golf and stuff like that, and so anytime we didn't really feel like working or learning, I would just ask her about anything to do with airplanes or playing golf, and she would spend usually the rest of the class talking about this stuff. And so, I mean, we may not have learned as much as we should have, but we all kind of enjoyed the class. Science was one of my favorite things. I guess science and history were two of my favorite core subjects. My sophomore year, I had Mr. Backlund, and I was in honors biology, I think. And again, I'm in these classes with the same people I've known since kindergarten. Since kindergarten at Goliad, I'm with the same people that I've gone to school with since I was 4.5, 5 years old. And he was funny as hell. He was even dorkier than I was, I think, which was great. To know that I had a future possibly. I remember he liked blue pens, but he would always bleed into his shirt. He'd leave them clicked or the cap off or whatever, and nearly every shirt he had was just completely ruined by blue ink. God forbid you wear a pocket protector. We know you're a bit of a nerd. Just go full on out. Just admit your nerd game and be proud of it. Get a pocket protector, bud. We love you. Come on now. Quit ruining your shirts. My junior year, I had Mr. Johnson in chemistry, and boy, did I screw up that first week. I did not pay attention, and I didn't understand moles. Not the little ground-dwelling creatures that dig through the earth, but like molar strength and stuff, and hydrogen bonds. And everything in chemistry, at least the mixing of stuff, is all based on the mole. And if you mess up that first week and don't understand that, you are screwed. And so I was completely screwed the rest of the year. Luckily, I was also a science aide during A day or B day or whatever, and so he gave me a lot of leeway that he may not have given other kids. He definitely gave me a lot of leeway on the semester test, so I could be excused for that class or whatever. I know he rounded up my grade from at least a 77 to an 80, so I'm qualified to be exempt from it. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'd go to his house, the night before tests. I know me and Samantha went a few times, and I don't think I ever actually passed the test, but he saw that I was trying. He saw that we were trying, and he had a cat with missing a lung. He was the first person I ever knew that had a laser pointer, and he would play with it. The cat would go crazy chasing this thing. Since it only had one lung, it would pass out after about 30 seconds of running around chasing this laser and just lay there on the ground, going all stroking out, probably. It may be animal cruelty, but goddamn, it was funny. It was great. He really was not a big fan of the cheerleaders. He kind of thought they were all ditzy, and they didn't necessarily do a lot to dissuade that notion. I know they were all intelligent. I know that beyond a shadow of doubt. I've known most of them since kindergarten. They were really smart people. No bullshitting. But one of them came in one day. I'm not going to name her, although I may have mentioned her in an earlier video about me getting kicked in the nuts. And she said, "Mr. Johnson, I need to be excused to class. I got to take my car to the shop." I said, "Well, what's wrong?" "My tire has no air in it." "So you have a flat tire?" She said, "Well, no, it's just out of air." He responded, "So you have a flat tire?" "Well, no, it's not flat. It's just out of air." "So you have a flat tire?" "No, it's just out of air." "Here's a pass. Go to the shop. Just come back tomorrow. I think she... Anyway, as I said, I was a science aide on one of the... At that point, we switched to A days and B days. Half the classes one day, half the class the next. And I would help all the science teachers, really. I'd help Mr. Backlund and Miss Kelly, and I would help them do whatever they wanted. I'd grade tests for Mr. Johnson. But since there was an A-Day, B-Day thing, he would make different tests for A-Day and B-Day, especially since there was a person in his class who was grading the tests. He didn't want me to cheat or help anybody else cheat, and no matter how many times I told my classmates this, they thought I was lying to them, I guess. So everybody tried to cheat off me during the tests. And as I said, I screwed around the first week, didn't learn the basics of chemistry, and so I would fail every single test. So I think our class had the lowest, grade point average of any of his chemistry classes because everybody would cheat off of me, thinking that I was cheating, when I had no clue. I was not, I was one of the worst students in the class just because I just didn't understand the basics, and that, goddamn it, always cracked me up. People, oh, he's a schoolboy, he's a nerd, he knows all the answers, he cheats. No, not in that class. I did not. I definitely did not know the answers. I remember at one point they got these plastic beaker racks, to hold the beakers, and they had me put them together. And I mean, these things were murderous. They were hard to put together, and I had to pull one apart. And I put it together wrong, and I thought my hands were going to hurt for days. I mean, it was the worst. And the day after I got these 50 stupid beaker racks put together, the school burned down and melted them all to a nice little, pate of plastic. It was, God, it pissed me off so bad. I also lost my badass boombox that I'd had in my car for, my Buick for years. But, hey, whatever. Moving on. Mr. Clayton, he taught computer science after the lady retired. I don't remember her name. She was nice. I had her for like algebra 1 or 2. After I said I was really bad at algebra, and so I ended up taking, algebra 1 and 2 and split it up, and I kind of got it, but anyway, it wasn't great. So I got into computer science, which is basically just learning how to program. I think we used Turbo Pascal or C++ or something. Two of my good buddies, Fred and Ken, were in that class with me. And Ken is a genius with computers. He helped me build my computer. He reintroduced me to D&D years later after high school. Thank you, Ken. You are friggin' awesome. Fred and I would work together on our programs, and Mr. Clayton had never used this program before, so he was learning, he was basically one chapter ahead of us in this programming language. And so he would give us the assignment, and the three of us would start working on it together, and we would be done before anybody else in the class. And he'd walk up to us and said, okay, well, run your program and let's see if it works. And our stuff usually worked, but since we didn't really understand the language, fully, our programs would be, 10 times longer, 10 times as much code as it was supposed to be, because we didn't know what we were doing. Our programs worked, but they shouldn't have. And our super bloated, super bloated programs, but it worked. We had a lot of fun in that class. My junior year, I talked my way into being into honors English. I'd never been in that class, but I talked my way into it with Mrs. Key. And we did a lot of reading, I missed out on reading a lot of the regular stuff that kids read. We read all this philosophy books, Buber and Camus and yada yada so forth. We were supposed to come in after class and do our vocabulary tests, and I'm like, dude, no, we have class to take tests. I'm not coming in after school. So that first 6 weeks I had a 0 average. All we did was discuss the books, and we didn't really get graded for that, and we got vocabulary tests, which I had not done any of. So she was already kind of pissed off at me for conning my way into her class. And then we read a book called, I believe it was Yellow Raft on Blue Water. And it was boring. I hated it. I can't remember a single thing about it. It may have had to do with Native Americans. I don't remember. I hated it. And we were discussing it in class one day. She told us, the author killed himself shortly after writing this book. I looked at a buddy, he looked at me, and we were on the same brainwave. and looked at her and said, "Yeah, he must have read it." Boy, I had never seen her that mad before in my life. She kicked me out of class. I think she kicked John out of class. And yeah, she ended up, she actually booted me out of that class, and I had to change classes actually. They ended up putting me into Mrs. Elm's remedial English class. Not because I was, because I needed remedial English, but because I refused to let my schedule be changed. That was the only two English classes available during that period, and I don't want to screw up my schedule. And it turns out that due to that incident and a couple of my friends messing with her later that day, she ended up having a stroke, and apparently that brought on her MS, and she ended up quitting for the rest of the year. She didn't come back, and I at the time I thought it was the funniest thing in the world, but looking back, I realized it was a really shitty thing to be proud of. Giving a teacher a stroke, you made her so mad. Like I said, other people had a hand in that. They were just as equally shitty to her as I was, if not worse, maybe, perhaps. And when she came back the next year, whatever drugs she was on must have been great, because she was just as cool as a cucumber, cold as ice. She was just as laid back and carefree. And we started doing vocabulary classes vocabulary tests in class, so we didn't have to come in after school to do it. And what do you know? We all did much better. That's when we were learning. Mom's gonna love this. Bergen Evans vocabulary words. It's some $5 words. With 18 syllables. I can't think of any right now. I'm pontificate or something. There's just a Bergen Evans word, whatever. Mrs. Elms. She was great. She was had crazy wild hair. Her hair. She looks a lot like mine when I grew it out when I was in a rock band. Anyway, she was a lot of fun. Like I said, I'd had a 0 for that first 6 weeks, which luckily due to the computer grading system, at least you can, the lowest grade you can get to 50. So, it didn't really affect my overall average too much. Plus, being in this remedial class, English was always one of my best subjects. Reading and vocabulary stuff, and the diagramming sentences, all that crap. Anything to do with English class, I was generally pretty good at. So I think I had 99 and 98s for the rest of the year. So my average wasn't too bad. But her class was a lot of fun. I mean, I could just kind of sit back and just coast through that. Half of what we did, we would just some kid brought a lighter to class, and we would toss it around, and you try to catch it on the top of your hand. And that's what we did most of the time in that class. It was kind of weird, but hey, it was fun, and it was easy hundreds really. Like I said, also Mrs. Henry, the choir teacher, she was one of my favorite teachers. Like I said, I was horrible singer. To this day, I don't think I'm much better, if any. But I loved her to death. She gave her all to the class, and thank you, Miss Henry, for the 1 year of choir that I did do. I really had a lot of fun. And Mr. Chance, he taught band my freshman year, and even with the whole homecoming parade incident, I still love that man to death. He was a great teacher, great trombone player, and his jazz band was just amazing. I mean, both his sons were in it, and we were the shit. I mean, just that's all the only way I could put it. We were awesome. I was the worst one in the jazz band, and we still kicked ass. It was a lot of fun. My freshman year, man, that was a great year for the Lakeview Jazz Band. Last but not least, the ROTC instructors. Colonel Oliverio, Major Harris, and Sergeant Newsom. I love you three to death. I learned a whole lot from y'all. And my next video will actually be focusing on ROTC stories. Half of it anyway, probably. Well, a third, but judging by this. Anyway, I got the hiccups and I keep coughing, so I'm going to end this now. And thank you for bearing with me. Like I said, if any of this interests you, I'd love to talk more about it. If there's anything you want me to focus on, please leave some comments. You can find this on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. And if you would like me to interview you, I would be happy to for a nominal fee. And get your stories put down for posterity's sake. You can pass them on to your grandkids. But between the genetics and the marijuana, my memory's not the best. So that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, is just to get my memories down before I forget them all. And if you would like to get your memories recorded, hit me up. I would love to. I'd love to record you and just give you a copy, put it on YouTube, whatever you want. Sky's the limit. So thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all shortly. Bye.